quoting it, it's like the flu got away. Like people just don't remember, right? Unless it's really bad.
Yeah, so.
You know, I think generally that's everything we can do that.
Everybody has, everybody has a dragon. It's 3 months. Yeah, I know.
Nobody brings it on that.
Good morning. Oh, can you hear me? There we go. Good morning. Welcome to today's worship service. We're grateful that you're here with us today. My name is Stephanie, and I am the service coordinator for today here at All Souls Church, where our mission is to seek truth, practice love, and celebrate life. Whether you're joining us for the first time or you've been a member for a long time, you are welcome here. Whatever faiths you have known or not known, or whatever your heritage, you are welcome here. Whatever questions you hold, whatever truths you seek, whatever sorrow you have known, whatever joy has filled your heart, whoever you are and whomever you love, whatever your legal status or wherever you were born, you are welcome here. Now for a few announcements. I call your attention to the notice of next Sunday's program at the bottom of your order of service and the announcements on the insert. I urge you to continue to read our weekly email blasts for the dates and details of additional upcoming events and opportunities. If you are not receiving our weekly emails, please sign up for them on the clipboard in the foyer before leaving. And I invite you to stay for conversation, coffee, and circle discussion after today's service. Does anyone have any additional announcements to what was in the bulletin?
Thank you, Stephanie. My name is Alan, and glad to see you all here today. First of all, a big thanks to Cheryl Cook for filling in this morning. Our beloved pianist, Carol Flower, had a huge tree go down in her backyard. Thankfully, it did not damage her house, but it took out the power, and so she's home dealing with that, and thankfully her one son is in town too. And then another point of concern, Ann Kunze is hospitalized at Avera, and so we're thinking of her. I visited her yesterday, and she's in good spirits and doesn't expect to be there too long. And I won't say any more because that's all confidential, right? But tomorrow is Ann's birthday, and it's the big 9-0. And so there's a card for her in back on that little half-moon-shaped table by the door if you'd like to sign a card for Ann Kunze. Spirit of Peace Church has a bake sale, bargains, baked goods, and hidden treasures this coming weekend. Some of you might have heard about that. It's Thursday and Friday from 9 till 6 and Saturday from 9 till noon. And there's a poster like this in the foyer, and I'll put one downstairs as well. And finally, last Sunday when we had the circle discussion, we kind of sensed the need for encouragement, and so we're having a time of encouragement, mutual encouragement, on Thursdays at 6:30 for the next few weeks. So if you'd like to come and meet in the library and feel encouraged or share encouragement, that'll be Thursday at 6:30. Thank you.
Now we'll light the chalice. Our words for the chalice lighting are number 448. We gather this hour as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning in celebration of the life we share together. Now our opening song is number 12, O Life That Maketh All Things New. Our first reading is number 722 in the Gray Book. I think continually of those. I'll read the regular, and if you will read the italics. I think continually of those who were truly great. Whose lovely ambition was that their lips, still touched with fire, should tell of the Spirit clothed from head to foot in song. What is precious is never to forget the essential delight of the blood drawn from ageless springs, breaking through rocks in worlds before our earth. Never to allow gradually the traffic to smother with noise and fog the flowering of the Spirit. The names of those who in their lives fought for life, who wore at their hearts the fire's center. And now we'll have a story for all ages. Okay. All right, I have today Love is All Around South Dakota by Wendy Silvano. Love is a feeling that comes from inside. Everyone feels it. It can't be denied. But how do we know that it's there? What's the clue? How can we see it? Just what can we do? Love's all around if you just pay attention. In people and places too many to mention. Go look at the park, on the street, at the mall. You'll see love all over. It's big and it's small. Around South Dakota, in cars and on trains, in taxis and buses, on boats and on planes, in Huron and Brookings and Watertown too, you'll find there is love that will come into view. Right there on the lawn in Canyon Lake Park is a mom with her babe, hearing songs of a lark. She swaddles him, cuddles him, kisses his ear. That surely is love. It's perfectly clear. At a store in Sioux Falls, a girl gets a bear. She squeezes him, squishes him, ruffles his hair. It's clear that she loves him. She's smiling and bright. She tucks him in softly and gently at night. That same little girl the very next day sees a friend at her school who is too sad to play. So she sits down beside him and listens and shares, making sure that he knows there's someone who cares. Now the boy who was sad feels much better, you see, so he runs home all happy to play with Maggie. They romp and they frolic, they fetch and they run. It's certain he loves them. They're having such fun. You can see how love travels when shared with a friend. If ever there's a father who sits at the table each night, helping out with the homework to get it just right. He's tired and busy, but that's love, you know, giving up what you want to help someone else grow. It's not only people who show love, it's true. Just come see the creatures that play at the zoo. The polar bear tumbles and rolls with her cub, and when they are finished, she gives him a rub. Where else is there love? Have we looked all around? I think we've forgotten love grows from the ground. In the meadows and gardens and parks you will find that the earth shows us love of all shapes and all kinds. Wherever you look, love comes into sight. It's there in the morning, it's there in the night. But in all South Dakota, the best love you'll find is a love that is gentle and selfless and kind. It's the love found at home. It shows up each day in things people do and in things people say. There's no greater love, I can tell you it's true, than the love of your family, especially for you. And we have no children to sing out. Right. In this congregation, we found it helpful to share the ups and downs of our lives by the practice of taking a stone from a bowl, holding it in our hand, warming it, and expressing our thoughts of joy and concern, and then placing the stone in the water so that the ripples of the water carry our joys and concerns out into the wider world. And we have water now, so I will start by taking a stone to express joy for all of us being here together today. Despite the storm yesterday, so many of us are still here. And I'll invite you to come forward, take a stone, share your joys or concerns with us, and then put the stone in the water.
Good morning. Last night's storm reminded me how happy I am that my neighbor and I split the cost of taking out his giant tree between our two garages, because I'm sure one of us would have had major damage in the storm.
So it's been a long time since I've been here, and I'm very happy to finally start getting my life kind of back in some sort of order. But one of the things I recently did, I went out to the hills for work, and I stayed and camped, and I didn't do my research and thought, I can hike Black Elk Peak. Why not? Sure. And I did it, though. I did. I got to the top. I stood there for a while and on the lookout. And on the way back, and what my stone is for, I had a lot of time to kind of think about myself and about where I'm going. And the thing that got me back to my car, because it felt so long and it was so hot. And of course, I ran out of water. But I just kept saying, like, what can I say to get myself there? And I kept saying, I'm thankful for my legs that can walk one step at a time. I'm trying to keep my mind off of how miserable I am. Thankful for my heart that pumps blood, and I'm thankful for my ears and I can hear this. I'm thankful for my lungs. And that was what got me back. And without, I took a lot of breaks, but it kept my mind off of the negative, and it grounded me literally. So I'm thankful for that, and thankful for trying to get some semblance of normalcy back. But that trip in nature really helped.
I'm delighted to be with you again, even though it was a very short order thing, but I wanted to share with you that I had forgotten that the interstate was closed, and I live in southwest Sioux Falls. So I drove through all of the streets between here and there. There is a tremendous amount of damage. Let's just say that the tree guys are going to be very busy for the next few weeks. I'm thankful I didn't personally have any damage this year, but last year I lost a big maple tree in a storm, and it was, for me, a very gratifying experience because I didn't know many of my neighbors, but they were all there to help. And I hope and pray that that's what people are doing now, because there are a lot of people who are going to be suffering from this. So mine is a care. So thank you.
Yes, I'll put a stone of gratitude that we didn't have damage at our house, but our next door neighbor did. And so they're without power, so we're supplying power with an extension cord from our house to theirs. That's the least we can do. Yeah, stone of concern for Carol Flower and her damage. And she did ask me to ask you if you've worked with any tree companies that you could recommend. I'm sure they're all going to be very busy, and I'm sure they're all very good. But if you have someone that you could recommend, please give Carol a call. She's in our directory. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Pat, and it's been a few weeks since I've been here. My husband Eric and I had some travels to, we were at Unistar for 1 week, and then from there let's see, where we went to, I think, what town is it? We were all over Minnesota and Wisconsin, and saw lots of relatives, and sisters and brothers-in-law and their offspring and so forth. But right now, I'm home alone because Eric is in, not sure the name of the town. It's a real strange name. Our son Gregory and his wife Justine are expecting a baby any day, and Eric is over there trying to helping Gregory get their bedroom finished. I mean, get the sheetrock on the walls and, paint it and things like that. Yeah. Talk about the last down the wire, the last. You don't leave those things until the last minute. As I've learned the hard way. So that's where my husband is, and I'm hoping everything goes great for Justine and the new baby.
I'll put in one final stone symbolizing all of our joys and concerns, spoken and unspoken. Now let us pause for a moment of silent reflection as we consider what we have just heard and what is in our own hearts and on our own minds. Now our second song will be number 107 in the Gray Book. Now sing we of the brave of old. Our second reading can be found in the bulletin, a quote from George Washington. While I reiterate the professions of my dependence upon heaven as the source of all public and private blessings, I will observe that the general prevalence of piety, philanthropy, honesty, industry, and economy seems, in the ordinary course of human affairs particularly, necessary for advancing and conforming the happiness of our country. Now I'll invite Jeremy up for today's message.
Thank you, and happy to be here. A couple of disclaimers before I start. First, no AI was used in developing this talk. I depended a lot on the Ron Chernow book, Washington, MountVernon.org, and of course, Wikipedia for some of the factual basis of this. And I relied on the 7 principles from the UUA, which I know have kind of been replaced. But that, when I think about Unitarian Universalism, those are the first things that come to my head. So I relied on those. Finally, as we say in the bulletin, these thoughts are my own on this subject. And some of those thoughts may be critical. I don't intend to disrespect any person, any sort of ideas, the United States, whatever. But I think that there's good and bad when I started thinking about Washington, especially as it relates to the 7 principles. So when the program committee first asked me to do this talk on George Washington, my immediate thought was like, I'm not a historian. Why are people asking me to do this? But then I remembered I have a liberal arts degree. And so what did that train me for, if not to talk authoritatively about something which I only have passing knowledge? A lot of liberal artists here. Glad to see that. So here I am, right, to talk about George Washington in a sort of personal way with a Unitarian Universalist lens. And as I started to think about this, I really kind of struggled with how to talk about this originally. My first idea actually was to do like an internet-style tier list for George Washington in terms of the 7 principles, and I scrapped that because I thought that tier list idea might be lost on the audience. But if you thought that was a good idea, talk to me at coffee time. Maybe we can come up with something. But I really am interested in hearing from other folks too about, during the circle time, about your thoughts on this subject, because like I said, this was something that I found to be pretty complicated as I thought about Washington through Unitarian Universalist lens. I felt internally sort of pressure to focus on the positive aspects of, you know, one of the founding fathers and kind of gloss over some of the less positive things. And I tried not to do that. I tried to kind of be aware of that pressure as I was thinking through how Washington interfaced with the 7 principles. And I also feel like George Washington, not kind of your typical like you and all but name sort of characters that are brought up in a lot of lay ministry talks. We've had talks, I think, I'm not sure about here, but certainly at our previous church about Thoreau and Whitman, and these guys line up very nicely with Unitarian principles, and I feel like George Washington a little bit more complicated than that. All of that is to say, I think when we look at the principles, I decided to go in order. There are 5 of them that I have things to say about. And the first principle, inherent worth and dignity of every person, this one I could not get past the fact that George Washington owned slaves. And that was kind of where I arrived and ultimately where I stopped. I tried at different points as I was thinking through this to get over that or think about mitigating circumstances, if you will, for slavery, and sort of came to the realization that there really aren't any. To put this in context, he was not, I think, out of the ordinary for Southerners at that time to own slaves. But there were other founding fathers who did not own any people, and who, in fact, were morally opposed to it at the time that George Washington was alive. So I think there's a lot of, in the academic literature, people trying to sort of make excuses that, oh, this was how it was, and this is historical, and we can't make cross-cultural judgments. But I'm here to make cross-cultural judgments, and that is one I am judging. I also think that over the course of his life, George Washington started out with some slaves and amassed more slaves over the course of his life. So this was not like, it wasn't like he happened to get a few and just sort of wrote it out. Like, he was actively participating in the slave trade, buying people. So I think that that is kind of fundamentally at odds with the first principle, and that was where I came to rest on that matter. I think on the second principle, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, the thing that struck me about this one especially was on the equity stance. I did not know prior to starting to research this talk that George Washington was kind of a spectacular land speculator. Like, when he died, he had 70,000 acres of land stretched across what would now be 7 states. At a time when most people did not own 40 acres and a mule, he had a lot of land. And I find it kind of hard to square the idea of somebody who, is sort of egalitarian and sort of professing equity with that amount of land ownership. Also, the vast majority of his land was not being cultivated. What was obviously was being cultivated by slaves, but only like 4% of it was being farmed. The rest of it he was just hanging on to as an investment, right? And, to sort of create wealth. So the second principle landed there. Fourth principle, the free and responsible search for truth and meaning. I think that in reflecting, especially on Washington's thoughts about slavery, they evolved over the course of his life. I think we know from now his private writings amongst his friends that towards the end of his life, he had a lot of misgivings about slaves. When he passed, he did free exactly one slave, his personal valet, and provided for the freeing of the rest of his slaves when his wife passed away. So I think it is important to acknowledge when thinking about him the change that he went through over time, and being able to sort of reflect and change, just like we all do. As it relates to the fifth principle, the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and society at large, I think, he is maybe the largest sort of champion of that particular cause in the last several hundred years, right? Like, I think without Washington, there probably is not a United States as we know it. If there's not a United States, there maybe is not a Unitarian Universalism as it currently exists, right? His dedication to the democratic process, and especially the peaceful transfer of power, which is like a keystone part of that, is hard to compare with any other person, right? We see, even up to today, right, in Nicaragua last week, they canceled a democratically elected president, canceled elections, and he will be the president forevermore, right? And George Washington could have done that in, when was his last term? 1792. And he decided not to, right? He stood on his principles in regarding democracy and the democratic process and stepped down after 2 turns and created really a tradition of stepping down after a couple turns, minus that FDR thing, that is going even to the present day. So I think that we can't understate his importance to kind of democracy, democratic process, and ultimately to the fifth principle for Unitarian Universalism. And the last thing I want to talk about is the sixth principle, the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. And I think that George Washington obviously played a large part in the American Revolution, which is often framed as, colonists, former colonists fighting against an unjust rule. And so it's put into these terms of like justice, right? No taxation without representation is kind of a just rallying cry for this fighting that ended up occurring. And so I think that Washington clearly, as it relates to the revolution, like on the side of liberty and justice, especially for certain folks who were here. I think that his relationship with this principle is complicated by his actions sort of before and after the revolution, where he was involved in a lot of fighting that didn't necessarily have the same sort of clear-cut just versus unjust ideology. He obviously played a big part in the French and Indian War, and played a big part in fighting Native peoples after he became president. In fact, he thought that Native folks should sort of shift to an agrarian-style economy instead of being hunter-gatherers. And when they resisted that, he had no qualms about sending in the military to push them off their land. And so I think in some regards, he stood on the side of liberty and justice. I think in other regards, he did not stand on the side of liberty and justice. But I think it's hard to make the argument at any point that he stood on the side for peace, ultimately. And so in summary, I'm going to get us out of here maybe early today. I think he was a complicated figure from the UU perspective. As I said, I think when you sort of do an accounting like I just did, it adds up to maybe more bad than good. But I don't know that we would have Unitarian Universalism without George Washington. So I'm interested to hear what everybody has to say at the circle discussion. And thanks.
Thank you, Jeremy, for having us think about all the different angles of our first president. So now's the time that we ask you to help us do the work of the church through an offering. Half of today's cash donations will go to support South Dakota Public Broadcasting. Now for the words to receive the offering, we can all recite together. We give these gifts freely. We receive these gifts gratefully. We dedicate these gifts to the work of our congregation, serving human wholeness, caring for our planet, upholding religious freedom, welcoming the stranger, loving one another. Our closing song is number 6, Just as Long as I Have Breath. Our closing reading is number 462. I shall take my voice wherever there are those who want to hear the melody of freedom or the words that might inspire hope and courage in the face of despair and fear. My weapons are peaceful, for it is only by peace that peace can be attained. The song of freedom must prevail. Extinguish. Now we'll extinguish the chalice. The chalice is extinguished, but the light goes with us out into the world.